Shalom, welcome to our daily class in Rebbe Nachman on Patreon. We are holding in the first Torah with the section that begins Amar Rabba Bar Hanna. Rabba Bar Hanna was a holy rabbi around 2,000 years ago who was known to make a lot of journeys. And a great deal of his journeys are recorded in the Talmud, and Rebbe Nachman took upon himself to explain them according to his inimical fashion. And he explained the stories according to the operations of creation, the relations between the tzaddik, the Yetzer Ra, the Yetzer Tov, between the physical and the spiritual, and between the kingdoms of good and evil. Now, when you hear these stories, it is quite amazing that Rabbi Nachman found in them the teachings that he found. And so many questions are raised about the Rabba Bar Hanna stories. Many Talmud scholars just gloss over them. They take it as a mystical legend, and not necessarily as an ethical or spiritual teaching. And of course, there's levels of faith involved, there's levels of education involved, and levels of mystical orientation. So we're going to learn the story, and then we're going to learn how Rebbe Nachman explains it in the context of what we've been learning in this story about the Jewish mission of using your intelligence to find the intelligence in everything else in the world, and that being a method of drawing ourselves closer to God. That in itself is an amazing idea, that by using our intelligence to find the intelligence in other things, we become closer to God. And we spoke about that last night, that essentially God's intelligence is embedded in everything in creation, and it is our mind that is able to find it, to uproot it, so to speak. Maybe that's not the best word, uproot, but to discover and reveal it. And that, of course, creates an illumination in our mind. Zivle, the Onkelos says that the Rashbam, says it's a light for him. And so, when you gather enough little lights, at the end of the story, you have a big light. And certainly these great rabbis had that light. And as a side note, I always ask the question, why is it that this rabbi is always being presented as being on a ship or being in the desert on a journey? Not everybody else is presented that way in the Talmud. He's one of the only ones. And he appears over and over, either on a ship or in a desert. And he sees amazing things. Hold that question in mind. Perhaps we'll arrive at the answer through the course of this Torah. But there'll be other Rabba Bar Hanna stories on the way. So just when you think you got it, we'll get confused again. But it's the chaos before light. So, Rabba Bar Hanna in Masechet Baba Batra on Daf Ayin Gimel says, Hai gala de mitzvah lezefinta mitchazekai tzitzita de nora chivarta beresha. So the Aramaic goes like this. There was a wave that threatened to drown a ship, and it appeared like the flashing white fire at the head of the wave. Now that's not such a hard image to kind of imagine. A big wave coming at you, and you know how the crest of the wave is white, and if the sun hits it right, it's going to really be bright. That's not hard to see. But when you learn what the Rashbam says, it kind of raises more questions. And the Rashbam says, Eish levana umalach mazikhu. Well, he says, this white fire that's on this wave that's threatening this ship is an angel of destruction. So if the Rashbam, remember, he's commenting maybe 1,500 years after Rabba bar Hanna, and he's telling us with pure, complete authority that it's not a wave that the Rabba bar Hanna saw. It's a malach mazik, an angel of destruction. Now, how does he say that? Okay, you could say he's a Rishon, he's a tzaddik, he lived a sanctified life from day one until the end, which are all true things, I'm sure. But to say that image that Rabba bar Hanna saw means he had some inside information. And when he tells us it's a malach mazik, it would imply that the Rabba bar Hanna is in the midst of a dangerous situation, and he's seeing this. Now, you might say, well, it's not meant to be taken literally. It didn't really happen. That might be very true. But whether it happened just the way it's written or it happened in a vision, a transcendental state where the tzaddik sees this vision in his mind, either way, we have to ask, so why is it in the Talmud? What is it here to teach us? Why do I need to know that he saw a wave that was bearing down on a ship to sink it with a white crested, shiny, fire-like head on the wave? Why do I need to know that? Well, let's go further. And the rest of the Aramaic of the Talmud says, and so we struck the wave with sticks. That's a new type of life-saving, right? That had engraved on the sticks the divine phrase, Ekye, Asher Ekye, the names of God that God revealed to Moses at Har Sinai. I will be what I will be. And of course, actually that was revealed to Moses when he saw the burning bush. Tell them I will be what I will be, sent me. Which is a pretty cryptic visitation card. Here's my card. I will be, I will be. But that's what was written on the stick. And they used the sticks to hit the wave, obviously to calm it down. Further strangeness, right? Further words that demand interpretation. Words that do not let us off the hook. With, it's a Talmud legend and it's not really meant for us. No, that's not an answer. That's a deflection. And remember, when Rebbe Nachman gave over this Torah, he didn't have anybody, in his cheder teaching him these stories like this. So it is part of his divine inspiration that enables him to interpret the divine inspiration of the Talmud, of the Rashbam, and of Rabba bar Hanna. So you see there's a beautiful linkage going on here of the divine inspiration of this rabbi made him said this, and the divine inspiration of a rabbi 1,012 or however many years after caused him to interpret it this way. And then Rebbe Nachman comes along another 1,500 years later and explains it in further depth of understanding. So you see, when we're talking about Torah literature, there is a connectedness through the presence of God in all that we do and that was done before us. And it should give us a little bit of connection ourselves to our own divine spark. That we are part of this tradition. Even if we're not a Rabba Hanna or a Rashbam or a Rebbe Nachman. We are who we are. But each of us contain that spark. Now, we've got the story. Now it begins the interpretation from Rebbe Nachman. Gala, the first thing he tells us is the wave that's coming is called the Yetzer Hara. It's the Yetzer Hara comes in a wave. Okay, we can hear that. The Mitva Lesfinta. It's coming to sink the ship. What does sinking the ship here mean? It means sinking the grace and the importance of Am Yisrael. Because remember before, we had that when the Jews are learning Torah, the grace and importance of the Jews rise up, and when they're not, it goes down. And so now he's taking this metaphor from the Talmud as a painting or a movie, if you will, of the teaching. As the importance of the Jews is taken down by the Yetzer Hara, and that's what's threatening now. The ship is coming, the wave is coming onto the ship. Lashon safun v'chashuv. And also he gives a further interpretation. Lashon safun means a hiddenness. Hiddenness and importance. Now, anything that's hidden is usually more important than something that's revealed. Okay. Ki ha-Yetzer Hara rotzeh le'etbiah lahashpil. Right? The Yetzer Hara, his job is to come along and drown and knock people down. To lower people in their self-esteem. That's the first place he always attacks. How you feel about yourself. If you have a negative thought about yourself, it's most likely the Yetzer Hara. If you have a negative thought about a deed or an action that you're not proud of, that very well could be the Yetzer Tov. And this, of course, this bringing us down, of bringing the ship under the water, is the idea of the bringing down the chen, the chashivut of Yisrael, which is the symbol, the Jewish people are this symbol of the kingship of God. That God is meant to be king of the world. God is king of the world, but he's hidden. And he's not just going to reveal himself because, we'd like to see him. He's going to reveal himself because he has something important to tell us. And he wants to bring the Malchut of Kedusha, means the kingship of holiness, means that it's the representative of goodness in its war against evil. And this description, it appeared like this shining, sparking white fire. Now this is really this is a leap that it's every time I read it, I can't believe he made it. That he explains that this white fire is the Yetzer Hara coming dressed in mitzvot. And it comes dressed in mitzvot to make people make mistakes in their Torah and in their interpretation, and of course ultimately in their behavior. How he saw that, the Rashbam said it's a malach mazik. He says, well, it's not just a malach, an angel of destruction. It's an angel that comes to destroy a person, dafke, in the mitzvot that he does. And he goes on to tell us, Eish Levana, this white fire, Afal Pichein Malach Maziku, even though it is an angel of destruction, it can take on the form of mitzvot. So that's a pretty frightening thing. Like, we sign up to do mitzvot, and then the first thing, and the tzaddik comes along and tells us, well, be careful how you and what you do in mitzvot, because it could be this angel of destruction. That's not very encouraging, right? But no, it's not meant to be that way. There is an understanding why he is able to appear that way to a man. Why a person receives a mitzvah with that white fire. Now, in everyday language, I would like to translate this Malach Mazik, this angel of destruction, this Yetzirah that comes dressed in mitzvot, as simply the exaggeration of the way a person does the mitzvah. He takes the mitzvah to an extreme position, to a fanatical interpretation. That's the white fire. That's where it becomes something that could drown a person. Now, the saddest example I remember of this is that a guy was this is a true story, a guy was so excited about having a new baby, a holy baby. The bris milah is going to happen. He wants to make his baby so holy, he's going to put him in a mikveh. A cold outdoor mikveh. Hashem Yishmor, what happened to the baby? But there was no Brit Milah. That's the white fire, folks. That's the angel of destruction, embellished and enveloped in mitzvot. It comes in a lot of ways. It comes when children say, I'm not going to eat with you, Dad. You're not kosher enough for me. Or, I'm not going to your bar mitzvah because it's a secular bar mitzvah. All you're doing is cutting yourself off from your family. It doesn't mean you have to mix dance. It doesn't mean you have to hang out for the whole party. But your family is your God-given human connection in a very, very large nation of people. And the Torah was given to unite us together, not to split us apart because one person wants to keep the mitzvot at another level. And I don't think I need to go on this too far. But you see, the tzaddik, Rebbe Nachman, he was able to see into the future and to know what was going to be with us. And then in the next piece of the Talmud told us, so we struck the wave with sticks, with divine names engraved on the sticks. Now, I hope nobody's going to go out there and get a branch from their tree and start carving names. Because I think you might need to be on the level of Rabba Bar Hanna to use such a thing. He tells us, though, in the Hasidic interpretation, the essential subduing of the Yetzirah, hu aidei a Torah. It's through the Torah itself. Shehi kula shemotav shel Kodesh Baruch Hu, because the Torah is all of God's names. It is one giant name of Hashem. So what is a name? A name is just Avraham, Shmuel, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Yes, those are names. But God is big. God is much bigger than 5-letter name. He encompasses all names. And He encompasses all the text. And so the entire Torah, I'm trying to think, there's about 1,300,000, there's a lot of words in there. All of them are names of God. I think there's 25,000 Pesukim, if I'm not mistaken. Around there. It's easy to look up if you Google it. Now, but what does this help us to know that the way you're going to take down the Yetzer Hara of white fire that comes into a mitzvah, I got to hit him with sticks. That's just going to get you in jail. So what's he telling us? Well, the Torah is the thing that's going to work here. These names of God in the Torah, Shia Torah hi bechinat vav. The Torah is called an aspect of the letter vav. It's the connector. Yud Hey and then vav and then Hey. The vav connects the upper Hey and the lower Hey, which is essentially connecting heaven and earth. The Torah is the connection between heaven and earth. And it's symbolized in this vav, in the divine name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Ki haluchot arkan vav rachvan vav, because the tablets of the 10 Commandments we're told were 6 tfachim by 6 tfachim by 6 tfachim. In other words, they were these big square blocks. Now, when you think of a tablet, you think it's narrow and flat. But the rabbis are telling us something else. They're not so worried about the physical dimensions as the spiritual dimensions. We need to train ourselves to think this way. There are spiritual dimensions. When the Midrash tells us that Eliyahu Navi was 15 amas high, which makes him about a 6-meter person, 6 meters, he's like 3 times the size of the NBA guys. What's it doing? Eliyahu Navi is not in a body. So you're telling me he's 15 meters high? No, when he appears to a person, he can appear that big. Or when it tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu was 10 amas high, he was a 5-meter tall guy, who would marry him? That would be strange. Of course, they're giving us his spiritual measurements, and they expect us to understand that. And the rabbis teach us that if we take the Torah literally, it's not going to be good. It'll turn into Samavavet. If we take the Torah literally on every single metaphysical rendition of reality, we're gonna say this is nuts. This is crazy. I'm going to destroy a whole city because half of the city served an idol? No, it never happened. But the rabbis give us this law and this teaching because, well, just in case it happens? No. It gives us the Torah. It says, Ein nitna ela ledreshet ba. These types of Torahs are given in order that we should talk about it and understand, what does it mean, a city of idol worshippers? And only 51% worshiped some idol, and 49 didn't. So we destroy the other 49% and all their belongings? I don't think so. Never happened. But it's the kind of thing, if you read that in the Torah, stam, blank, off the cuff, you're going to think this is nuts. And the Torah is not given for us to think that way, but it is there to test us. To test us and to show us we need to have a literal and a figurative interpretation of reality. There is a literal interpretation of reality. On the 8th day, you do a bris milah on your son. And so on and so forth, about the practical, real mitzvot interpretations. And there's the figurative, where we get outrageous dimensions and ideas to give us a little grasp of the spiritual realm. There's a midrash that tells us when Joshua, the son of Nun, Yeshua ben Nun, when he stopped the river Jordan so the Jews could cross into the land, There's an interpretation in the Talmud that says the water piled up 13 miles high. Well, that's quite a feat of anti-gravity. Could it happen? You know, you have to say yes, it could happen. Did it happen? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know is a legitimate answer. To say it didn't happen, it's for sure it's a lie, it's fake, that's also not the point. 13 miles high. Well, we know 13 is a number that reflects Rachamim. They're 13 vessels of mercy. The midot of mercy that appear in a person's beard. Kel, Rachum, V'chanun, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed, Ve'emet. Right? Each one has a different point on the beard. 13 miles. Right? And so on and so forth. We mifaresh, we explain the ideas. We don't throw them out, but we don't believe them like literalist, childish interpretations. Because you figure if there was a wall of water 13 miles high, that it would have been written down somewhere else in the history books of humanity. It would have been seen all over the world, I assume. 13 miles high is a lot taller than the Empire State Building or the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So we need to have both those mental sets to understand the Torah truly, the figurative and the literal. And we need them both. And so Rabba Bar Hanna is giving us stories of his visions, and the other tzaddikim are coming to help us understand what the vision was sent to teach us. And this white fire comes to invest itself in our mitzvot for the people who are not taking it right. They're going to extremes of fanaticism. It becomes a white fire that makes a person make mistakes. And this is the idea of the little tzutzita de nora chivarta, the spark of white fire. And you hit it with the sticks, with God's name on the sticks. This is the Torah, which is all God's names. And the Torah we know is Vav, like the measurement of the 2 tablets of the testimony, the 10 Commandments. Ki ze bechinat avlata. This is the idea of the sticks. Dainio meklot dahakik ale eki asher eki. Again, these sticks that had God's name written in them. Hainu shemot bechinat Torah. He repeats the idea. These are the names. This is the names of the Torah. Shi bechinat vav. The vav hu tzurat makel. Of course, the vav looks like a stick. Behi kula shemotav shel Hashem. And this, again, he tells us, these are all the names of God. Now, Rebbe Nachman repeats ideas so that we make sure we get it. There's many reasons why he repeats names, not just that. But it's important for us to understand that the repetitions are not, like editorial oversights. No, they're not. They're there to make sure they can engrave the idea in our mind. Because otherwise we'd forget. The short-term memory has a hard time grasping all these levels of interpretation at once. And the ladder of concepts he's building. And now he tells us what we're looking for. The Holy Torah is that which subdues the evil inclination, because the Yetzer Hara, when you got a guy who wants to be religious, you can't knock him off of being religious. So the Yetzer Hara just says, well, I'll make him crazy religious. And this is exactly what we see sometimes. And he goes on to tell us, Ki ba'al avera hu meshugah. The person who does averot is crazy. As our sages taught in Masechet Sota, Ein adam over avera elim kein nichnas bo ruach shtut. That a person will not naturally do a mitzvah unless an evil spirit, a foolish spirit, enters him. And he says, just like the Mishuga'im atzrichim lakotam, like they used to hit crazy people, you know. They didn't have the types of medications to subdue people back then when he wrote this. And I'm sure mental health back then was basically putting someone in chains and hitting him until he calms down. I'm sure it's probably not so far into the past. You read the book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You know, they just zap them with enough volts to take down an elephant, and the guy is all of a sudden, he's very calm. You know, what a great treatment. Or you take out part of his brain. So it's the same crazy idea of the doctors. But still, unfortunately, this is like hitting the Yetzer Hara because the person is crazy. But it's even worse when you think of it is that he's crazy in mitzvot because he's gone too far. Okay, and he repeats the idea of the Torah being the names of God that hit the Yetzer Hara, shebazeh me'akin machnio Yetzer Hara me'garshim mina adam et shigaon. But the point of hitting them is to drive out the evil spirit. It's a very primitive form of exorcism, is what he's really saying. It's a primitive form of exorcism. The person has an evil spirit, a foolish spirit is in him and makes him do crazy things, and so they hit him. You know, it's not an advisable practice nowadays, folks. But unfortunately, it did happen for a long time. And this is how we bring down the Yetzer Hara and drive him out of a person and out of the foolish spirit. Right? And this is hitting him with sticks that have God's name on it, as we've learned so far through this whole long piece. Okay. We have a little bit more, and I think we're going to save it for tomorrow, because there are more things to say about this, and we'll have a chance to think about it, to sit with it, to review it. And I highly suggest, if you can, in the Hebrew. If you can't, you could find it in the English. And these ideas, they start to build the mind into thinking and seeing the world the way the tzaddikim do. And I'm sure all of you want to be tzaddikim if you already aren't. And we're just, we're getting on the road here and following the right people. God bless you all. We'll see you again on Patreon. Have a great day.